webinar, right, is the whole purpose. Hold on, I gotta say that I agree to this recording.
Yes,
just so you guys know,
we are officially recording now.
Yeah, this meeting is recorded. Okay, so that's why you guys' cameras are off as well. Just keep that in mind. Okay, you gotta have. We need to have permission for that. But the purpose of this webinar, at the end of this webinar, we want you guys to be able to understand what ESA is. Okay, what the ESA expansion bill is, and what your options are for school choice. Okay, and also the resources available to you. My name is Eva Stevens. Oh, actually, we're also going to address the controversy surrounding the expansion of ESA for all. And we have moms and teachers from homeschool, micro school, private school, like I said, principals, somebody who actually works with ESA. So lots of stuff for you guys. I'm going to do the introductions in just a bit, but Beth is going to do the welcome for you guys. Right, Beth?
Oh, we need to unmute her. There we go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. We are so excited for all of you guys to be here. We thank you guys for the panel who is here. We thank you guys for being here and giving up your time. For everybody who is joining us, welcome. We just want you to know that you are a part of this conversation. Every mom, every parent, every grandparent, if you are a taxpayer, you are a part of this conversation about ESAs. And if you're not here for just the ESA, let's say you don't want to have ESA for your student or your child, but you are here for school choice, they kind of coincide. So we welcome you to the conversation. There is a place here for you, especially for those mama bears out there. We're in a time of mama bear where we understand now and we're getting really involved in our children's education. This is a time for you to be a part of this conversation. So thank you so much for being here. One of the mamas, I know a lot of us as moms were like, oh, well, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I don't have a degree in education, or I'm not politically involved in my school district or anything like that. You do not need to have all these credentials to be a part of the conversation of what is best for your child and their education. So one of those mamas, again, was Ava. What up? She is here and she started this conversation. She's a mom and she was just interested in learning more about the education of her child and what is going on with that. And that's how this all started. So you don't have to have all these credentials and stuff like that. You can just be a mom, you can just be a father or a grandparent, or just even a taxpayer that is interested in education and how that is changing and evolving. And so we're really excited for that. Thank you, Ava. I'm going to send it back to her and she's going to do some introductions.
All right, guys. Am I unmuted? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you, Beth. I think that's an important point I think that's an important thing to point out is I am not an educator. I am like in no means like in the education realm, never have been, but I am a mom of 3 kids and my oldest son has been in the Sahuarita Unified School District for going on 8 years now, almost 9 actually. And my daughter, just with all of the changes with COVID, stuff like that, I enrolled her in private school last year, and what an incredible opportunity for my family. But I also realized that not a lot of families had the opportunity or the financial means to send their kids to private school. And so I started fighting for the public school and what they were teaching, things like that. And the more involved I got in that, the more I was just like, oh my gosh, so many people need to realize that there is a way, even if you don't think you have the funds to send your kid to private school, there are tons of different options for you as far as school choice and the education that best fits your child. So that's really why I got involved. And I just want to encourage you mamas and dads, like Beth was saying, just to start to get involved. And look, we're troops on the ground in our community. So it's important. What we have to say and what we do matters. Beth is a mom of 3. She's a certified kindergarten through 5th grade teacher, previous public school teacher, now micro school owner. Aubree And Chrissy, they utilize ESA funds. Aubree's a mother of 5, but she's a home educator utilizing ESA funds. So is Chrissy. Chrissy is a mom with a child with special needs. So you're going to hear how they've been utilizing ESA and just how critical those funds are for them to provide these kind of education that they do for their family. Dennise, who you see is actually a home educator, certified teacher, mother of 6, I believe is a doctorate student at the U of A right now in education leadership. She is an incredible resource for you guys. So I recommend you guys connect with us or, as individuals on Facebook as well. Jessica Johnson and Sara, they are moderators in the group. So they're the ones who are going to be writing down your questions and things like that. They are also moms of multiple children. Jessica is a home educator serving her kids with IEPs, also utilizing ESA funds. And Sara has just joined the conversation. She has 2 young kids, a certified K-5 teacher in the Tucson Unified School District, also in Vail, and also a tutor. Esly Montenegro is a AV implementation director at American Federation for Children. And Jonathon is our guest speaker as well. Like I was saying, Jonathon Basurto, I think that's how you say your last name, sorry, but he's a principal at Push Ridge Christian Academy South, guys. They're starting their first school year this coming school year. I went and visited the campus. It is amazing. It's bilingual. He has a lot of experience with STOs and ESA, which STOs we're going to talk about in just a little bit. That's a way that you can actually get your child's private education school paid for, no out-of-pocket expense. All right, turn it back to Dennise, right? Going into the next slide.
All right, thank you so much. So yes, we are here mainly to talk about ESA, and but it's part of the school choice puzzle, as Beth was saying. And so I just wanted to give a really brief overview just to make sure that everybody understands what all of your options are. We're all really blessed to live in Arizona, where there are so many options for our families and on how we can educate our students. So I think the first one, probably most people kind of take that one for granted, but it's worth mentioning that you do have your local public school district as your option for educating your child. And one thing though, that is, I think, a little lesser known is that there is open enrollment. So if the school that is your zone school is not the best fit for your kiddo, you can look into open enrollment into neighboring schools that you can get your kiddo into. A lot of the schools have dates that you need to do open enrollment by. So if that is something you want to look into, you want to make sure you do that early on, but it is an option for you. I think a lot of people sometimes feel trapped and they're like, well, we live here and we can only go to this school. And that's not necessarily true. Because of COVID, even before COVID, Arizona had online instruction, but now since COVID, almost the number of schools that offer online instruction has highly risen. And it is true that even your local district probably has an online option if that is the best fit for your family. Just want you to be aware, if for some reason you want to keep a closer eye on what they're teaching, but you still want to rely on their services, that is an option for you, is to do an online instruction model. And that can be through your local district school or through a charter school. And so that's our next option for school choice. Is Arizona has many hundreds, in fact, of charter schools in the state. And they are public schools. That means that they are free for you. There is no tuition. In fact, charter schools are not allowed to charge a tuition in the state of Arizona or fees above for enrollment. So if you find a charter school that has a philosophy that aligns with how you want your child to learn, know that that is an option for you. They're only restricted in the state. Some schools have an enrollment capacity, which makes them slightly different than your district school. Your district school has to find room for your child. The State Board of Charter Schools in Arizona does put enrollment caps on our charter schools. So if you find one that you love and you have to join a waitlist, don't be discouraged. Join the waitlist. Things change rapidly in Arizona. You could find a spot really soon. For those of you that are local, I know a lot of us are in the Sahuarita area. So if you're watching this and you're local, you should know there is a charter school in the area. It is Great Expectations. And I think a lot of times they do have a wait list because of that enrollment cap, but just keep an eye on that. And if anybody knows of another one that's decently close, I know the rest of them are usually in Tucson, but there are carpools and things like that that go up there. So if that's an option for you, reach out. We can try to get you more information or get connected to other families. Homeschooling is another option in the state of Arizona. Really briefly, the requirements for that are that you sign a homeschool affidavit when you start homeschooling. Not every year, just when you start. If you leave homeschooling to enter the public school system and then return, at that time you would file the affidavit again, but it is basically a one-time deal as long as you continue to homeschool. And if you choose that route, you are committing to teaching your child the core subjects. So that's language arts, math, science, and social studies. They don't check up on that. You don't need to turn in reports or grades or anything like that. That's just a commitment that you're making to the state. And then you also commit to fund that all privately. So that is your personal family needs to come up with the funds to pay for all of your supplies. Private schools, we have a lot of private schools here in Arizona, and that is tuition based. So that means that your family would have to pay for your student to attend that school. But as we have in parentheses there are tax credits and STOs, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that help families be able to afford those schools. And they're a great opportunity for our families. So we're going to definitely go into a little bit more detail there. And then, of course, the main reason why we're here, and we'll be spending a majority of our session today talking about empowerment scholarships accounts, what they currently are, and how they are potentially going to be changing with this new law that was signed in June. So that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Jonathon to give us a little bit more detail about the student tuition organization scholarships that are available for private schools.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just so amazed to see so many people that are wanting to be a part of this conversation for school choice. It looks like there's over like 50 people on this conversation, and it's true. Like, this is where the change happens. It's done through the parents. It's not done through politicians, and it's not done through educators. It's really done through the parents, because parents have the choice of where they want to send their children to go to school, and that's powerful. So being a principal, going from the charter world, being assistant principal in the charter world for over 10 years, and now coming into the private world, I've also learned a lot about how monies for children are so important in this realm. And so at Pushman Christian Academy, we're one of the many private schools that take ESA monies and STO monies. So student tuition organizations are developed throughout the state of Arizona to provide parents the help that they need to send their kids, to give their kids scholarships to attend a private education. So I grew up at a time, like many of you did, where there was no options. You had a public education that you had to stay within your neighborhood, unless your parents lied about where they lived and you were able to go somewhere else. Or B, you went to Catholic school, and Catholic school monies were ridiculously expensive. But I grew up in a neighborhood, Barrio Hollywood, Barrio Menlo, during the gang wars that were happening there. And so my parents didn't have an option. So both of them worked 3 jobs each just to send me and my 4 younger sisters to St. Peter and Paul and then to South Point. But that wasn't sustainable over the course of the youngest one's education. And so just to save their marriage and our family, because, you know, even though we were in a private school and mom and dad are both working, as soon as we came back to school, left from school back home, we were caught up in all the gang stuff that was surrounding us. And so for our parents, it was really important to provide an education for as long as they could that was the best for their kids. But now parents don't have to go through any of that. You have 2 options in the state of Arizona in which to look for monies, one being STOs and one being ESAs. So what are STOs? So STOs is a tax credit opportunity that you have that you can apply for your child. Different organizations have so much money caps that they can give you. But the beautiful thing about the STOs is you can actually stack them. So for example, the caps for acsto.org and IBE.org, IBEscholarships.org is $4,500. So a parent can stack both of those and get actually up to $9,000 to fund their child's education. But because they're stackable, you can actually add more like school choice and also Arizona Leadership Foundation. So what we do at PRCA South is in English and Spanish. Our ministry, it's not a matter of where you want to send your kid to school. It's a matter of helping you get the monies that you're looking for. So if you come to the campus, 5951 South 12th Ave, we sit down with moms and dads and we walk them through filling out every single one of these applications. If you type out the paragraph ahead of time of why your child is so awesome and why people should give to your child's scholarships, you can actually bang out all 4 of these scholarships in about 45 minutes, which is pretty amazing. Know though that different scholarships, they release the money at different times. So ACSTO does it 4 times a year, IBE does it every month. School Choice does it twice a year, and ALF does it only once a year. And so it's important to know these things that we walk through you, that there's certain, there's only certain open time periods that all begin in February and last throughout the year, depending on which organization you're applying for. And then if you're on the donor side, this is something I always talk to those folks who say, well, I don't have kids, you know, they're long and gone. I just got grandkids in. Then you most definitely need to be giving, because all of this money, it's a tax credit you get back for what you put in up to your tax liability. So if you are a person who wants to give in, and let's be honest, parents, we should all be giving in, you know, even though I have kids who are out of college and I've got a 3-year-old who's not in school yet. I still give to ACSTO because I feel it's important that parents have an opportunity for these scholarships. So if you look at line 48 of your taxes, that's your state tax liability. If you don't have dependents, that's the maximum that you can give. You can choose to give that monthly, or you can choose to give it in a lump sum. If you if you don't have dependents, so if you do have dependents, you would look at line 52, and that's the maximum that you can give. If for like myself, that's the maximum I can give to someone's scholarship opportunities. And again, I would get all of that back at the end of the year. And it's very important to understand that as we talk about STOs and ESAs, per child, you cannot choose both. You can only choose one. But there are families who say, look, for this child, there's special needs. I really need the ESAs to fund this child. That's awesome. And then for a separate child, you want to do your state tax stuff, that you can do that as well. But we're here at the school Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, to help out parents as they need help in English and Spanish. On Wednesdays, we're here from 9 to 7. Again, it's really where you send your child is not important to us. We just want to know that you have the choice, and we want to help you get as much of the scholarship money that's out there as we possibly can help you get.
It's awesome. All right, so just to talk a little bit more about the STOs, like when I sent Aubree to kindergarten last year, I was a little bit like confused on tax credits, how that all worked. So this year, I really got clear on it, and super easy when you think about it. Basically, everybody, if you file taxes, everybody writes a check to the state of Arizona for your state taxes. Like, you owe the state of Arizona taxes every year. And so instead of writing the state of Arizona a check for $1,800, $2,000, whatever that might be for you, instead of writing a check to the state of Arizona, you write it to an organization like Jonathon was talking about, IBE, ASCTO, or in my case, what I did is I went to a few of my friends and I said, hey, you guys pay state tax in Arizona? Yeah, we do. Would you guys be willing to, instead of writing a check to the state of Arizona for that, would you be willing to write a check to IBE for Aubree? And it's totally tax deductible. You'll get your money right back. And some people are like, oh yeah, it's amazing how, like, when I ask people, they're like, oh yeah, we already do that. Like, we already donate to, you know, this private school or this or this or this. So a lot of people already do this, and they don't send it to a specific student. But by asking, I just needed to ask 3 people or 3 families basically that had dependents, and Aubree's tuition was paid for. So it's just a matter of asking people, hey, do you guys pay state taxes for Arizona? Or do you donate your state taxes? Really, that's probably the better verbiage that I use. Like, do you donate your state taxes, you know, to the state of Arizona? They're like, oh, we donate to this school or this or this. And be like, hey, would you mind donating to my kid? And they'd be like, oh yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that, you know, it can go to a kid that I actually know. So pretty simple. pretty simple. And if you guys do have any questions, I'm sure, like Jonathon said, you guys can go actually to Push Ridge Christian Academy South, and they will help you fill, like, you have to create an account, and then they'll help walk you through on how to get those STO funds as well. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Jonathon.
Yeah, that was an awesome explanation from the parent point of view of how to really do it. You know, even Push Ridge up north in Oro Valley, where people say, well, it's predominantly rich, wealthy, you know, 80% of those kids are receiving scholarships right now. Out of those 80%, I would say about 30 of them are on free rides. And really all it comes down to is just sending a letter out saying, hey, do you want to send your money to Phoenix? Sorry, Esly. Or do you want to give it to somebody that you know, right? And so because you have that choice as a taxpayer in Arizona, it's pretty amazing. It's a blessing.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Go ahead, Dennise.
I was just going to say this is the meat of it. We're getting into what the ESA program currently is. And so Esly's going to walk us through. She does this. She knows the ins and outs of the ESA program in Arizona. So take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Esly, and I appreciate you all being on this call today. I'm representing the American Federation for Children. All it is we're the largest school choice nonprofit organization in the country. Basically education freedom for all. And as you all know, education has been a hot topic, but school choice has existed for more than 20 years. And public schools have come from a long way. A lot of laws have impacted choice. We know that parents have been ultimately the ones in control. And so I wanted just to share a little bit what school choice is. It's really any policy that allows families to take their children's education dollars, okay, the taxes you're paying, just like Eva said, to the approved education provider of your choosing as a parent, be it traditional public school, it could be charter, as we said, private, virtual, and homeschool. And so from all of this, we know something has formed. It's called an education savings account. And in Arizona, it's known as the Empowerment Scholarship Account. Can you guys still hear me? You're good?
You're
Awesome.
good, girl.
Okay, so what I want to tell you is that the ESA program was ultimately created for children with disadvantages. Disadvantages, what I'm talking about, families that have children with special needs, families who have children who have fallen through the cracks into D and F rated schools. Yes, the Department of Education rates every single public school A, B, C, D, or F. So that means there are more than, I would say, 75,000 kids right now, almost close to 100,000 kids just in Arizona that are in failing schools. And that means they could be passed from grade to grade without reading, without knowing math, etc. Okay, that's a problem. Raise your hand if you think that's a problem. I think that's a huge problem. And so that's called a disadvantage. So there are several demographics that qualify for an ESA. Okay, so what is the program? It's literally a program that allows you to take your money to either the school of your choice as a private school. You can do home-based education. You could do online learning. You could do a customized program. It's basically a customizable scholarship. Yay, that's an awesome thing, guys. And so what does that mean? Well, these are the categories right here on the screen who are eligible. Preschool children with disabilities. K through 12 children with disabilities. Again, I mentioned disadvantages. Disabilities look in all shapes, forms, and sizes. They're not always just learning, they're behavioral. They look, again, there could be speech disabilities, impediments, all types of disabilities, Down syndrome children, autism on the spectrum. There's so many types of needs in Arizona. Children who are active duty military children. So yes, in Arizona, there's so many people that serve our country. The active duty military children are also eligible. Students who have parents who are legally blind, deaf, or hard of hearing. Okay. Also, we talked about DNF rated schools. And again, there's 192 schools just in Arizona that are failing. And you know what, by the way, that report was from 2019. The public school education system froze after COVID. They stopped grading schools. That's another problem. So if the school was a C rated, who knows, it probably fell into D or maybe even F, which means We won't know if they're failing anymore because there's not a new accountability report that's out yet. Again, that's DNF rated schools, students that reside in Native American reservations. So Navajo Nation, there's about 24 reservations just in Arizona, all over the map. And we go to these homes and these impoverished communities to offer these programs. Siblings, if you have one child that's eligible right now, every child that's related to that siblings are eligible too. And then let's move on to the ward of a court. So if a child has gone through the adoption system of the state of Arizona, and they were ruled by the judge that they were once part of Arizona, basically property, but now have been adopted, that child's also eligible. And if they were adopted into the family of an ESA family, then the siblings are eligible too now. And any previous ESA recipients who have left but said, you know what, I regret leaving the ESA, I want to come back. And so those are the eligible families that I wanted to talk about. And let me just throw a few things, and we can talk about this a lot more. What can you buy with ESA? Private school tuition. You can buy curriculum. You can buy uniforms. You can pay for testing fees. You can pay for books that are required in your curriculum. There are so many unique educational materials that you can buy. And yes, there is an overseeing of this because currently it's under the ESA office that manages the expenses. So I'm going to pause right there. If anybody wants to plug in, I'm going to go ahead and let you go back to you, Eva, and just want to see if there's any examples and want to talk about how this program has impacted families today.
Yeah, we got Aubree and Chrissy who are currently, you guys are in Sahuarito, right? Aubree, Chrissy?
Yes, we are. We both are, obviously.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Share away, girls.
All right. So my story is an example of why school choice is so important, especially in regards to the choice of ESA. So I've been home educating my 5 children with ESA for over 6 years. And it's been such a blessing. I remember when I first found out about ESA from a Davis-Monson Homeschool Facebook page, no one in Sahuarita that I could find knew about it. So I had to drive all the way up to Rita Ranch to meet a mom so she could teach me how to do the expense reports the old school way. Thank goodness we don't have to do it that way anymore. We have Class Wallet now, which is so much easier. But our situation is a little different in that we actually qualify under 3 of the previous, or I guess current ESA categories. We are a military family. So we are technically categorized that way because of the 100-day school enrollment waiver for military families. But we also have adopted 2 of our girls from the Arizona foster care system. And I also have a son that's been diagnosed with autism. So there are so many reasons why families choose to home educate their children or pull them out of the public school system. And there are reasons for families as a whole, and then there are reasons for each individual child in that family. School choice takes into consideration the reality that each family is unique with different needs, capabilities, values, beliefs, and circumstances. Not only is each family unique, so is each individual child in that family. So to give an example of this, in my own family, we started homeschooling for 2 main reasons. One, as a Christian family, I found it a priority for us to teach our children our faith and values. And I knew growing up through the public school system that there was no such thing as an unbiased education. Second, we are, of course, a military family, like I said. So we moved from one state to another state and then to another state, all within my son's 1st and 2nd grade year. That's 3 states. I knew the constant change in education curriculum and standards among states would not be beneficial for my children. I wanted something in our inconsistent lives to be consistent. Not only that, my husband has been deployed so many times, I'm not allowed to publicly give that official number, and his time at home does not line up with public school schedules. I wanted the flexibility for our family to have quality time off together. And ESA has been such a blessing for us because my husband is enlisted. He's not an officer, so for our family of 7, we really do not make that much money. And so ESA gives us the ability to afford a quality home education for our children, along with important activities such as swim, gymnastics, and dance that we would not be able to afford on our own. Now, individually for my children, home educating through ESA has been such a blessing as well. So that was like the whole family. And now I'm going to talk about the individuals.
Our girls that we adopted came to us when they were 7 and 8. They were old enough to really have some traumatic memories. For whatever reason, they called public school prison and were struggling with attachment issues. Having my daughters home with me while home educating was essential, and I really cannot emphasize that part enough. For part of their healing process and their ability to feel at home in their new home, because it gave us precious time for us to bond as a new family. My son with autism would not be able to handle a large classroom environment. He has the ability now with ESA to work at his own pace for his schoolwork without the added social stress. He is also able to have the time to participate and, like us, have the financial means to do gymnastics, which was actually recommended to us by his occupational therapist at TMC. And gymnastics has actually been the most helpful therapy, if you want to call it that, he has received, even more so than ABA therapy. And I guess with my point with that is somebody may look onto us and think, well, gymnastics is inconsequential, swim is inconsequential, but for certain kids, this is actually a really important part of their lives and their development. So I just hope that you can see how important it is to acknowledge the reality that families and children are unique. And if you have found yourself saying, you know what, that's really nice for you, but yours family situation sounds nothing like my family situation, which I don't think anybody here would say we have the exact same situation. That's actually my point. And that's why school choice is so important. So I'm going to give it over to Chrissy and let her share her story.
Okay, so we have 3 children and a daughter who is 11 with Down syndrome. And we've only been participating in ESA for 1 year, although we've been homeschooling for 8 years. We're also a military family. So we do the moving a lot as well. As far as ESA, one thing I think I would like to emphasize to people, because a lot of people, when they hear about it, they're like, oh, you get this money. And I said, no, we as a family don't get money in our pocket. This money goes into account, and it is approved by ESA for certain things for our children's education. So we don't actually get any of it personally. It goes all towards our children and their opportunities that ESA allows for them. I believe that ESA opens so many opportunities for our children, opportunities that our public school system can't give them. And one, it allows them to have the option to go to public school. It gives them an opportunity to be homeschooled, so many different things, or home educated. So many opportunities are out there that the public schools can't offer our kids. And I can say that personally, because we have tried to put our daughter in school a few times and it just didn't work. The schools, the people were wonderful. The administration was wonderful. The last time we did it, they wrote her IEP. She's 11-year-old with Down syndrome. They told me she cannot get an aid because she is too safe, they said. So she'd get into a pull-out class, a special ed class. So they put their blocks of an hour and a half per subject. 30 minutes of that block, they would put her into a special ed class with up to 7 other kids at her same grade, from her same grade level, who our daughter is going into 5th grade, but is at a kindergarten level academically. And then at the last hour that she would put back into her normal classroom, where the teacher would then have to accommodate her. And I don't think that's fair for her, our daughter. I don't think that's fair for the teacher to accommodate her when she has a teacher may have 20 or 30 other kids in the class. And it's not fair for the other students. So we given this opportunity to have ESA, it also opens doors that we would not be able to do with a child with special needs, with the therapies that she needs. At one point, her therapies were over $1,000 a month. And if a family doesn't have really good insurance, you can't do that on your own. You can't get the private tutoring that you can get. There's nothing like one-on-one. We have close friends who are also on ESA, and they've been able to use the therapies like vision therapy, which is something that the schools don't offer and most insurances don't cover, but it's made a huge difference in their children's lives. So I think it's really important that we look at this as it gives our kids opportunities. And I know for myself, when we started thinking about homeschooling, I said, I don't think I can do it. And a friend said to me, and I believe this is in all the school choice, what we're talking about, is a friend said, nobody knows your child and loves your child more than you do. And you know best what is best for them. And that's what ESA and the STOs allows us to do as parents, is to know what's best for our child and make that happen for them. So.
Dude, that's awesome. Thanks, Aubree. Thank you, Chrissy. So we learned what ESA is, school choice. Now we're going to talk about the ESA expansion, right? ESA for all. That's basically what's kind of stirred up all of us to get together and do this, because there are organizations out there like SOS, Save Our Schools, Arizona, Red for Ed movement that actually want to block ESA for all of us. But I believe, is Esly, are you going to talk about the ESA expansion? Or
Yeah.
Dennise, do you know who's going to talk about it?
I will. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Perfect, loud and clear, girl.
Awesome. All right, you guys, thanks so much for your attention. I know this is a lot of information, but it's a good introduction for some, and for others, it's good repetition. So what does expansion mean? So the Empowerment Scholarship account has existed since 2011, okay? Now, what we've heard, it's nearly doubled just in 2 years. So we're almost at 12,000 kids. Now, believe it or not, about 250,000 kids in Arizona right now are eligible. They're eligible. Why doesn't everybody take advantage of it? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. What I do know is that if right now there's only 12,000, there's still opportunity that needs to be given to so many more kids. And so the expansion would literally remove all those eligibilities and open up to every single child that's in kindergarten through 12th grade in Arizona. Woo! That's a huge deal, you guys. You know what that means? Is that those 12,000 kids that are in this program right now, they're now going to be able to share this with their other families who have been looking for something like this. Because you know what? Just like you just said, you heard it, you heard Aubree, you heard Chrissy, every child's different, and maybe they don't have a special need, but there's something unique about the child. And so this program opens it up to every single family in Arizona. Okay, so that's the hugest deal. That's why there's definitely a lot of opposition for this program. The second thing that's happening is this program is going to be increasing in the amount. That's an average amount of $7,000 per child. So right now, a lot of children get less. And so if the argument says that they're taking all this money away from traditional schools, that's incorrect, because right now there's still only an average about $6,200 per child. So the increase is going to $7,000 per kid, which is a big deal, because you know what? On average, the current public school system gets more than $10,000 per child in every school. Okay, so we're gonna get that increase to $7,000. So that's another bonus. Another expansion point that you need to know is any child who wishes to opt out of the public school right now and say, want to home-based educate their child, they can do that. They can do that right away. What does that mean? Is you're not going to be forced to be stuck to your zip code school. Now, some families love their school, and that's awesome. They should stay there. If the family loves their school, by all means, continue to take them where you want your child. Because as a parent, that's the point, to give parents back the control. And then finally, one of the biggest things that a lot of families have been asking is, Esly, what about transportation? How am I going to take my kids to school? I don't have any money for that. It's only $7,000. Well, transportation has been added to the expansion. So that means public transportation. So if you do ride shares, that's included. And on top of that, the big win, and I got so many influx of families asking questions about technology, computers. Yes, that's also added. Now families can buy their computers, their handsets for educational purposes. That's another huge win for the ESA. And so that means the families that are using ESA now will also get to take advantage of those changes. So those are some of the biggest categories, the biggest points. And then we can elaborate a little bit more on why people think this is a good thing or this is going to be problematic. We could talk all about that. But right now I want to tell you that freedom is for everyone. That's the point. Education freedom should be for everyone, and the parent should decide what's best for their kids.
Yes. All right. So I know, Beth, you're super excited for this. Can you guys hear me okay still? I got excited and knocked my headphones off. She's talking about freedoms for everybody. Yes, come on now. Beth,
right. This is the
Yes.
juicy stuff. This is the juicy stuff. Are you guys ready? All right.
I'm gonna stand up for it.
I know, right? Okay, so we're going to be talking. I mean, there is so much controversy when it comes to the ESA expansion program. That's why we're all here. That's what we all kind of got heated up about. But we are going to just hit on 4 for the sake of time. There's so much more to this, and we can go on forever. So the first is ESA funds only benefit the wealthy. This is something that has I have heard constantly from opposers. So the argument says that wealthy students who already have the means to attend private schools will now have extra funds to help their endeavor. Meanwhile, low-income students will still have a gap. So let's say they only get $7,000 and the school that they want to go to is $10,000. So they're still going to have that gap that they won't be able to meet. So again, we need to realize that ESA funding is not only for private schools. We're thinking that, oh, all ESA funding is going to go to private schools. That is not the case. As we have seen today, ESA funding goes for different types of families, different types of programs, and it's not just for private schools. We also need to realize that not all private schools are more than $7,000. That's just the assumption that we're like, oh, every private school is $10,000, and that's not necessarily the case. ESA covers over 98% of the tuition and fees at the majority of private elementary and middle schools here in Arizona. In the 2016 report, Exploring Arizona's Private Education Sector, researcher Andrew Catt found that the median tuition in Arizona private schools was $5,700.12. So to say that our lower income students cannot go to a private school because it's too much is just not the case. Also, I think school choice is a civil rights issue of our time. As a minority, I feel like this issue, saying that the poor cannot, possibly come up with the extra $3,000 if they want to go to the top $10,000 a year private school, I feel is like, what? How are we going to tell our minority students, yeah, you can't have this. We're going to take this $7,000 from you because you cannot afford the extra $3,000. What are we talking about? I know that, and as Jonathon had said, as we grew up in the same barrio here in Tucson, and I can tell you that if I wanted to go to the top $10,000 private school tuition, I can tell you that my father, who came to the United States with nothing, will work his butt off to pay that extra $3,000 if his child wanted to go there. So I feel like, how can you tell a minority or a low income family that they cannot afford the extra if they wanted to go to that top school that has $10,000? So Jonathon, I wanted to bump that back to you because your school is within a minority community in South Tucson. And how does this impact the minority community when having ESA funding and private schools available to them?
Yeah, you made such awesome points, sis. So the first thing to understand is, so the reason Bushwich Christian Academy moved into the South Side was so that not only citizens that lived in the South Side neighborhood and in the Sahuarita neighborhoods, because the truth is the school's only 15 minutes off from Sahuarita, it's right off the freeway. It was also a statement to the state that amazing private schools could open up in low-income neighborhoods and provide an education that most people think is only for the elite. Because the truth is, as being a Christian school, it's not about being elite, it's about being part of the kingdom of God. And so we want to provide an education to families that is not only glorifying to the Lord, which you don't get in public education, but is most definitely excellent. And for those of you moms out there who are doing the homeschooling education, who are very Charlotte Mason based, because we're a school that provides a Charlotte Mason classical education, that is unheard of in low-income neighborhoods. That is completely against the progressive thought about education. And so to have a family understand that you can afford this. You just have to simply sit down and be educated what it's about. Just like many of you are starting to get this education is the biggest step. The next step is actually going through, like Eva talked about, which is actually applying for it. We already see the radical change happening in the South Side. Police officers like Captain Peterson is coming to our school and talking to parents saying, because you have been filling out these scholarships and you are getting into this school, the community is already saying that this school is a beacon of hope in the South Side that they haven't seen for decades, right? And then not only the economic impact, because we are the first Christian classical dual language school in the nation, which is another reason why a lot of eyeballs on us, because private schools that, there's only 5 states that do this like we do in Arizona. These other 4 states, they want to do what we're doing too, but they just don't know how. And they just don't know, is it really possible? And just in the short time that we have pushed Ridge with Judy and the whole team of educators here that are doing this beautiful education in Spanish and in English, our kids, when it's all said and done, K-12, are going to be able to read, write, and speak in English and Spanish and communicate with over 60% of the world. Like, that's amazing. And so by showing people that we can come into these low-income neighborhoods, we can provide an education that's unheard of, and we can do it because of the help that we get between ESAs and STOs, there is no reason why a parent should say, I don't want this. But the simple fact that every parent can say, I have a choice if I want to send my kid there is exactly why, PUSH is doing this. And we sincerely hope, as more people are seeing that what's happening in these low-income neighborhoods, the economic opportunity that business owners are now pouring into this school is starting to change. We're going to provide virtues back in the classroom where we have kids that want to not only change the community right now, but even as they choose to do ministry, career, or college, they're going to want to come back and pour into the neighborhood. Our ability to employ Spanish and English speaking educators that are from the neighborhood starts to also make that change happen faster. And as we grow to a 12th grade school, our ability to employ people from the neighborhoods, not just in the South Side, but also Sahuarita, it's going to continuously grow what we're doing out here in Southern Arizona. And so for anyone to say that this takes away from what education that kids are getting in the South Side, it's ridiculous. We're completely working here for everybody that's in this Zoom today. Everybody here sees the opportunities now in a way like they never have before. And my sincere hope and my sincere prayer is that more low-income neighborhoods see the advantage of doing this, building schools, showing that it can be done, and that because parents are supported with these ESAs and parents are supported with these STOs, parents realize that they do have a major vote with their feet, and they can walk and choose to send their kids wherever they want to provide the best, not only now, but for the future of their families.
This is awesome. Yes, so school choice is definitely gold, especially for our minority population. And thank you for that. The next one is ESA takes funds from the public school sector. And so I am going to, first of all, I want to say that this is not a war on public school system. I want you to know that all of us in this panel are not saying that we want the public school sector to be in void. We want nothing to do with it. I was a public school teacher. I have friends in the public school sector. So this, and a lot of us, some of us like Eva has even a son in the public schools. So we're not saying that we do not want anything to do with the public school. And it's a part of my heart. That's where I came from. And so what we want is we just want the choice. We want the choice. If you want your kid to go to the public school system, more power to you. If you want your kid to have choice, more power to you. I also want to say that this ESA funds takeaway from the public school is an emotional talking point. Because of course, as parents, we want our teachers to get paid more. Obviously, we want that. We want our class sizes to be smaller. Of course we do, because that is what benefits our educators and our own children. So this thing that, oh, we're taking away and we're gonna have big class sizes because of this, and we're gonna have teachers of fleeing because of ESA, that's not the case. There is a source that I have, how Arizona's empowerment scholarship accounts have saved children at a national movement. This is the article that I'm going to be giving you 3 points on when it comes to ESA's funding taking away from the public schools. The link can be dropped as well. Since the first cohort of students joined in ESA programs for the 2011-2012 school year, Arizona's per pupil funding has risen nearly 1,600 in inflation adjusted terms. This translates to more than 30,000 of additional funding per class in the public schools of 20 students on average. So to say that our public schools are getting no money and the ESA funding is depleting that is not the case. The studies show that that is not true. The second point is each time a child opts out of the Arizona public school system for ESA, over 600 of the state funding is redirected back into our public school. So even though your child has ESA funding, they're going to take their 7,000, but the public school is going to get back money for that child, even if that child is not in the public school. So they're still getting money from the ESA population. So this means that Arizona's ESA program now sends over 6 million of state funding back to our public school students each year. And that is not in addition to federal funding. This is just in your state. So to say that we're depleting the public school system of money is just not true. And then my third point is, since the ESA program began in 2011 and 2012, the school year, the number of Tucson, because we're talking about Tucson, right? So Tucson Unified School students participating in the ESA program was only 705. The total the district had shed, so the total that Tucson Unified School District lost in students was 10,293 over the same period of time. So to say that the ESA funding is taking all our students is not true, because where are all those other kids going from the 705? We don't know. It could be like homeschool that are not utilizing ESA, other private schools that are not utilizing ESA. This represents only 1 out of 15 kids who have left the public school system. So where are those other 14 kids going? We don't know, but it's definitely not our ESA, pool that is taking all our students out. So that is another argument. We also need to ask, if we flood the public school sector with more money, is it really going to help? We know that history has shown us that our public money and funding for schools has not been managed right. We know that, we've seen it time and time again. So to speculate that, oh, well, we're going to take ESA money away, we're going to flood it into the public school system, and it's going to be something that your child is going to see in their classroom is just not true. Unfortunately, we would love for every child to see that money, but that is not what history has taught us. And I don't know if anybody else wants to add to that. I know, Esly, you know a lot of the background of government and how that works, if you wanted to add something to that.
You stated some very, very factual statistics, Beth. Thank you so much. I do want to tell you guys that school choice has always existed in Arizona. More recently, the conversation has been, if I don't want them to go to one public school, they move to another public school? Then can I move them to a charter school? If you believe that parents have the power to decide which public school they can go to, it's the same concept. So I want to add to what you said, Beth, is the money, all it's doing, it's following the child. That's all. So it's never funded a school. It's always supposed to follow the child. The money has always belonged to the child. And so what you hit an important point, Beth, is the question about why these teachers are not being paid, or why these schools are not getting the resources that they need. The question should go back to the administrators of that public school. And that's why there are failing schools in Arizona, because something's happening with the administrators. They're not paying their teachers. And trust me, my mother was a teacher. I would have hoped that she would have got a better salary. We were poor when we were growing up. So it's an emotional argument to put that, that teacher needs the funding, absolutely, and we agree with that, but they should be holding their leaders accountable and not holding our children hostage to their lack of management and their lack of administration. So the child is the one that gets empowered in return with school choice, and the money follows a child. And that's why we say fund students and not systems. And if you get a petition to sign anything that you don't know about trying to close down these opportunities for children, I encourage you to decline to sign anything from anyone representing, basically someone that wants to destroy the options for kids in Arizona. So thanks, Beth. Anybody else could add on as well.
I think that was awesomely stated. I think the accountability topic is a great segue into the next point about the oversight for families. So Beth, I know you have some information on that. And then I also just want to remind us we're getting close to the hour there. So we want to move along.
All right, so real quickly, another argument is that there is no oversight for families in schools receiving ESA funding. A lot of people just think like you get this lump amount of check and then you just kind of like go free. So this is where I'm going to bump it back to our homeschool moms, and then maybe Esly can also talk a little bit later. As far as it really is hard. It's not just like you get a credit card and you could just swipe. So go ahead, one of the mamas, if you want to talk, Aubree, about how hard it is and really how everything is accounted for. It's not just like you can just do whatever you want.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of accountability. So we are given a parent guide that we have to abide by. And what you do is you go onto Class Wallet and you'll see each of your individual children's accounts, and you'll see how much their balance is. And then there are 3 different options you can pay using ESA money. So you could go through their vendor option, which is great. There are so many vendors already signed up on there. And what you do is you just pay directly through Class Wallet that way. You don't have to upload any credentials because they've already been pre-approved. Yeah, you only have to upload the invoice. And that invoice, it does have some specific things like the child's name, what you're buying. And so you upload that invoice, but the credentials of like whether that person has a degree, if they're a tutor or what have you, that's already been pre-approved. So honestly, that's the easiest way to use ESA money. And then there is the other option of using a debit card. And once you make a purchase using that debit card, you have to upload an invoice and all the credentials with that as well. Honestly, I don't really use that option very much, but and then there is another option called reimbursement. So I have linked my bank account to Class Wallet, and what happens is I make a purchase, and then I can go in and get reimbursed for the purchase that I've made using my own personal funds. But I also have to once again upload the credentials for that person if it's like a service, and then I need to upload an invoice. And what happens is when you upload all of those things, it goes into Class Wallet and ESA for approval, and you have to wait a couple of days, and then you get an email letting you know, yes, this has been approved, or no, it's been rejected and I need to fix something, or I've accidentally bought something that I shouldn't have bought. But the other thing though, with the fear of buying something you shouldn't have bought, they have a really great help desk service. So I just submit in if like I'm questionable about something, I'll submit in a help desk ticket to see if they will approve this or not. And then of course this is all by email, so I save it. And then after I get a confirmation from them, yeah, this will be approved, then I go ahead and submit that. So that's how I kind of guard myself from there. But there is absolutely no purchases made that I don't upload a receipt or some sort of credential if it's a service. Like that would never ever be approved. And so I don't understand where this idea of there is no accountability comes from. And to be honest, like in terms of like curriculum, companies and other organizations, sometimes they don't even know I'm using ESA, and unless I ask for an invoice or something like that. And even then, I don't really even need to tell them because it's all done on my part, because the contract is with the family. It's not with the company. And I think that's a really, really important point, especially for like this controversy thing, because one example that was given to me is like, well, if companies and organizations, start taking government funds, then maybe they're going to have to start taking in like, government telling them what to do. But the reality is if they start changing whatever they want, like with their curriculum of something that I don't believe, I can stop using them and go somewhere else, because the contract is not with the company, it's with me. So I can vote with my like ESA money and go, you guys have started, saying things in your curriculum I don't agree with, I'm going to use something else. So to me, that it's not the same thing as if the company itself is in contract with the government, if that makes sense. So I don't know, is there anything else you'd like me to address with that?
I think that was fantastic. I want to reiterate kind of the bottom line of that accountability point is that there is not a single ESA purchase. There's not a single ESA dollar that gets spent without either being a pre-approved vendor that's already been vetted and qualified and is on this list, or that gets vetted through receipts or invoices after the money gets spent, either with the reimbursement option or with the card. But every single dollar gets checked out either on the front end or at the after the purchase, which is, I believe, more accountability than we see in other systems where, you know, sometimes we have categories for budgets and things like that. But for this, it's every single dollar on every purchase is being checked out, that it is fitting the educational need or category that it needs to fall under, which I think is awesome.
And also, Dennise, if you want to talk about that, you cannot fund a family member. Like, you cannot give money to a family member. And how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of Aubree touched on this a little bit, and I think Chrissy did earlier, that the money doesn't go to the family. You don't get to, it's not like you get some money in your bank account. In the instance of a reimbursement, it does get transferred in your bank account, but it's only because you spent it under a qualified category, and then you just get that money back from your ESA account. But it's not something that the parent is getting, you know, a $7,000 check in the mail and going to go spend it however they want. There are very specific categories, and there is a handbook that outlines what those are. And we, so it doesn't go directly to the family, and you can't pay like your sister or something to be their child support. There's a lot of limitations, and there's credentials that need to be turned in and things like that.
And I think one of the ways that like make sure that doesn't happen is when you do submit an invoice, like especially for services, the student's name has to be on that invoice. So it can't just be, so that way ESA can see, is this really being used for this particular student? Or did you just buy something for somebody else? And so I think that's also like, there's like little intrinsic things in there that I think help block, you know, fraud from happening.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for that. Our last point, and I'm going to give this over to Dennise, is we addressing the homeschool community and the conservative fears about ESA funding. Just real quickly, she's going to distinguish the difference between homeschoolers and ESA recipients and the fears that come with that.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that I've heard talked about a lot lately. And so it's important for us to differentiate. Under ESA, you have the option to spend your ESA dollars on a private school education or to curate an education for your child out of a home-based model. And that home-based model sometimes looks very, very similar to a family that is homeschooling on the homeschool affidavit in Arizona. And that is okay, but they are called two different things for a reason. You've probably heard a lot through this webinar us talking about, I home educate my child, or I'm a home educator. And that's because the state of Arizona does a very good job of creating a legal distinction between those of us that are educating at home, but in some way, shape, or form are using public dollars, and there's accountability to those public dollars, as we've talked about, and those families that are choosing to homeschool under a homeschool affidavit and are privately funding that themselves. They are taking on that responsibility. Again, it looks very similar on a day-to-day basis around your kitchen table with your curriculum. You're probably using the same curriculum that a homeschool family would be using. You're probably attending the same activities or co-ops or PE classes, but there is a legal distinction for a reason, and that is because we don't want to muddy the waters. Right now, ESA does not ask for any accountability in terms of the academics. The accountability is on how the money is spent. But that may change at some point in time, and that's okay. At that point, we can decide if the ESA program is still a great fit for your family or not. But we don't want that to blur the lines into homeschooling, right? The homeschool pioneers have fought really long and hard to have the freedom and the autonomy that they have, and we want to make sure that they maintain that. And so that's why it's separate, even though things might look really similar. And I would just want to, help alleviate any fears that, kind of in everyday talk, I might say to a mom, oh yeah, you homeschool. Yeah, I'm with my kids too. And they are like, oh, do you homeschool? I said, well, I do have them home. It looks a lot like homeschooling, but I'm a home educator. And it's just a term that we're going to have to get used to. In other states, the term homeschool is your kids are home. That's it. They're learning at home, right? But in Arizona, we do have a very specific legal distinction. And that's the part that I think is important for us to remember is when we're talking about categories and legalities of Arizona, there is a difference between a homeschooler with an affidavit and a home educator under either a public school system or through the ESA program. Your everyday will probably look really similar. We can all still be friends. We can all go to the same co-ops together, but it's just a way to protect both groups from any sort of entanglement or overreaching of any entity. And so that doesn't mean that we need to have any animosity toward either or other of the groups. I think it's important for us to know that we're all trying to do the best for our kids and that we all just want a choice that is beneficial for our families. So anyone can add to that if they wish. Otherwise, there's no other comments. We are going to put up a slide here. I think we're pulling up some email addresses. We also want to address some questions. And I know that we are 10 minutes over the hour mark, but this is super important. I still see a lot of people in here. So if you moderators, if you want to unmute yourself and let us know any questions that maybe didn't get answered during the course of the conversation, we can try to get those now. If you have a question, you can either, raise your little emoji hand, we can unmute you so that you can ask it, or you can put it in the chat now. Do we have any pending questions?
There were no pending questions during the meeting. The only questions we received were how to check your school's letter grade, and that link I posted in the chat. And then if the ESA funds were available for preschool students, and it's K through 12, but preschool, if your child has special needs, you could qualify unless one of you ladies or gents knows differently. Those are the questions that I answered during the meeting.
Okay.
And I also wanted to clarify that the ESA expansion is not in effect yet. It will be in effect in September if SOS does not block it and then send it to the ballot in 2024. So for those of you who are like, well, we're going to wait for the expansion and we're just going to see if that, no, don't wait. If you want ESA funding, get into it now, and don't wait for the expansion because it's still not in effect yet. Correct?
Yeah, that's a great point. If you qualify under the current eligibility categories, right? So we talked about the military, special education, all that slide that you saw. If you qualify now, there is no reason to wait. The rest of us, the rest of the families that don't fall under those categories, you are not currently eligible, even though the law did pass. Arizona, if you've taught your kids about the Arizona legislative process, you know that there's 90 days from when a law is signed until it can go into effect. And we are waiting to see if within those 90 days, the organization Save Our Schools that's trying to block this can collect the signatures, which is why Esly was talking about, we encourage you to decline to sign so that you don't block this choice. Even if, like we said, you are a supporter of your public school and you love your child's teacher and you're very excited about your district school, yay, we are ridiculously happy for you. If you love your charter school, that's awesome. Continue to use it, but please consider not blocking that choice for somebody else that does not love their public school, right? This is not going to take away from your opportunity to attend the school that you already love. It will just open up the door for another family that may not have a similar love for their school to choose something else. And so you will see people around, look for red shirts, trying to get you to sign a petition to block this. And if it does get blocked, if they collect enough signatures, it would be on hold. Nobody can use, none of the new eligible students can use it. All of the current students can continue to use it the whole time. That doesn't change for them. But any of the newly eligible students would not be able to participate until it goes to a vote in the 2024 election. And if you're a family that's not happy with your school situation, that's a long time, right? To have to wait for that to go into effect. And that's one of the reasons we brought up the STO, because that is an option that is available to you now. I saw that in one of the questions. The STO option is there and it's open to everybody. Right now, ESA is only for certain categories of students, but STO is available for everybody right now in the state of Arizona. So if that is a better fit for you, pursue that. There are email addresses here up on the slide. I am happy to talk to families about school choice in general. I know a lot about charter schools if you're looking for one that's a good fit, or just how to apply for ESA and things like that. Eva's here. She's just a warrior for all things school choice. So feel free to message her if you have a question. Jonathon, again, is your go-to if you have a question about the STOs, or if you're local to the Sahuarita area and would like to go up and get some help qualifying for an STO or want to learn more about the school here, not here. And then Esly, again, an amazing resource is there to answer any questions, probably even more knowledgeable about school choice and everything there is. So let me just make sure we go back to any questions that we might have missed. And I see a hand up. So Evelyn, I'm gonna unmute you so you can ask your question.
I was just curious if what Jonathon talked about, if that applies to every student or if it's only for those strictly homeschooled.
Right.
So right, that's a great question. So under the STOs, there's a lot of different types. Like you were just discussed, Dennise was just talking about how even the ESAs can be used in the public schools monies. You can use STOs for public school money as well. I know some pretty prominent mariachi programs in Tucson that use STO monies. So yes, homeschoolers can use STO monies. I would highly recommend reaching out to acsto.org to find out how to do that, because there's so many different types of STOs in Arizona. It is insane. There's a lot of homework that can be done, but if you go to direct organizations like acsto.org, or if you go to ibescholarships.org, if you live in Tucson, I highly recommend stopping by their office. Kim and Lucia are amazing at helping out moms and dads find the particular STOs that benefit them the best. But again, when I talk about STOs, because it's a tax credit, you can use them for just about anything. So there is a lot of homework that goes with it. What we do is we specifically go through the ones where it's the biggest bang for your time, so that this way you're not having to fill out so many small ones. But I do know that in the homeschooling realm, there's a lot of little ones that you can use.
And then I had a couple questions too, just for clarification of resources or support for Jonathon and for Esly. Jonathon, you had mentioned before that your school is available for families who are interested in applying for STOs. And if you can just give that information again, and also clarify if that is only available if the family intends to use the STO at your school for enrollment, or if that just covers STOs and support and question and answering in general.
Absolutely. So if you want to stop by with help for filling out an STO, we're at 5951 South 12th Ave, 85706. A big part of our ministry is just helping out families in general. So even if you don't want to come to our school, that is okay, because we are so for school choice and parents having that opportunity for choice. We just want to help you fill the things out and find out how easy it is to do so. We want to get you plugged in with the different STOs that are already ready to help you, that are the biggest ones here in Arizona. And so again, if you want that help, feel free to stop by. You can also call Judy to set up an appointment at 520-433-0285.
And then on the flip side for applying for ESA, so if you are a family that is currently meeting the qualification requirements, or you have a student that's meeting the qualification requirements for an ESA at this time, Esly, do you know of any resources that can help a family navigate that process?
I'm so glad you asked that question. We can be that resource. If you want to go to azschoolchoice.com, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat as well. We actually walk parents through that process. We have a team here. We do it in Spanish, both, and English. And we have we have a guide. We talk about Class Wallet. We talk about the vendors, what's on Class Wallet. There's a lot that we empower families to do. And that means helping them with the application. So it's not a difficult process. It only takes 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to fill out the application. But if you are eligible today, I urge you to apply immediately. And like I said, our team could help you. Just make sure you contact us at the website. And I want to add to what Jonathon was saying is there's over 55 STOs in Arizona. And yes, you can stack those. So if you get as many as you need to get 100% of private school tuition, you could do that. And we have our list of STOs, all the current STOs that are available on our website as well. So these are all amazing resources on the screen, but by all means, if you guys need my support or our support, we're here to support you.
Awesome. Thank you, Esly. I also put another resource in the chat, Love Your School, and they're amazing. If you're just trying to figure out, if you're still a step back and you're trying to figure out, is school a good choice for me? Is microschooling a charter school? They're also happy to sit down and have that conversation with you about the different options. Jenny is really great over there at Love Your School. So, and she holds weekly webinars on ESA as well, if you are just wanting to learn more and get more information.
Dennise, I know that we're at time. I just had one more question.
Oh, yeah. People can feel free to definitely leave, but I do want to try to hit these questions if we have them.
Yeah, so this is probably more of a stump the panel type of question. I'm not sure who's going to have an answer for it, so it'll be our little wild card. But if families are trying to look at the current requirements for ESA, and they believe that their student may be qualifying or could qualify because of the letter grade of the school, since those letter grades were not assigned, does anybody have any idea of when that's going to start up again to see if potentially a student could qualify because of the rating of the school?
Are you asking if the school letter grade has changed since the last report? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so right now it looks like the schools have NA for the 2021 school year because of COVID. And so I think that's, yeah, more of if the previous or the last grade is what that's determined on, or if a new grade will be issued.
Yeah.
As of right now, the grade that is available, I can send you the list of grades. In fact, it's a full Excel document, and they kind of hide it on purpose. If I'm honest with you, that's what I believe. They hide those grades on purpose. It's not been easy. I understand COVID has been tough on all schools, but that grade hasn't changed. But what I encourage you all to do is to hop onto those Department of Education meetings, and I can send you the link and when they're held. And I would bring up the accountability and say, hey, public schools, we know that you haven't pulled out a new grade. When are you going to post the brand new grades and hold the public schools accountable to that? Because that is not available as of 2019. That was the last report. But I'll go ahead and put a link right now to the current letter grades that are available.
It's my understanding that ESA is taking the last posted letter grade for applications currently, but I don't know if anyone's had a different experience.
They are using the last letter grade. That's yeah.
So there was a link that was posted earlier that went to AZ Department of Ed. And if you click on that, I'm sure a lot of you did, it's really difficult to figure out where is the actual letter grade at. It's just a bunch of schools laid out. They actually do it by color. So you'll see like this kind of dark taupe color. Those are the schools that are failing. But the truth is, those schools that they're showing in the taupe have been traditionally failing for over 3 years. So the way it's supposed to happen is the moment a school goes into a corrective action, they have 3 years based on the help that they get from the state of Arizona to get out of that D or F. If they do not reach that D or F, out of that D or F, they're supposed to be shut down. But as you know, with the schools that are in taupe, they were never shut down. They're using the reason of COVID for not closing them. So these schools that are layered out in taupe, they were already consistently DSRF schools. As you dig in, like Esly was talking about, something you're gonna find is that these schools were technically, for some of them, already a DRF for over 7 years, but they weren't shut down. So as a parent, that's another thing you're gonna wanna look into when you go to these meetings, is asking, how long have you guys been this letter? Because that's another site that all schools are supposed to be held accountable to. And right now it seems the only ones being held accountable to it are the charter schools, because they not only have oversight by the state of Arizona Department of Ed, they also have an oversight by the charter board. So if you're looking for a school that has more accountability, I would definitely look into the charter realm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that information. Jessica, were there any other questions pending on your end?
Nope.
All right. I had a couple of quick ones. Can ESA be saved towards college credits? Yes. I think I'm understanding the question is, can it be used towards college when your student graduates? And that is a yes. If you want to use it while they are in high school to get college credits, that is also a yes. So I guess it's a yes all around. The only requirement with ESA is that every year you do spend some of your money teaching the 4 academic subjects, but any money that is left over beyond that can, stays in that child's account for use later in college, as long as that account stays active. So that was one question. I had one asking about staying attached to a public school and being ESA. That is not allowed. It's an either or. So you cannot be maybe you love your charter school for some things, but you're also interested in ESA. You're gonna have to make a choice. You can't be enrolled in 2 publicly funded programs at the same time. Can ESA credits? I think we touched on this, but I'll say this again in case the person missed it. You cannot accept, this is kind of related, the STO and do an ESA in the same year. And Esly, maybe you had to step away, but if you're still here, or Jonathan, if you know, it's my understanding that if you accept an STO now and then ESA goes universal, you cannot switch to ESA in the same school year. Is that correct?
Well, even right now, you can't, and it goes per child. That's the hard part, right, where it's really confusing. So for example, let's say you've got 4 kids, right? And one of them is special needs, and ESA is going to be able to provide them the most money that's going to help them with their education. Once you choose ESA for that child, you cannot get an STO, right? Now, for your other kids, if you want to do STOs, that's perfectly fine. A lot of times it makes it seem like it's within the family, but it's actually within the child. This really helps out families that got 2 kids, and you're putting the letters out to everybody to get additional funding for your kids, and it gets really tough, like which one do I give it to? Some families will choose the ESA for one and the STO for the other. That's perfectly fine. My understanding is, even if things change, you can still do that for your children. It doesn't go per family, it goes per kid. Now, like Esly was talking about, per family, if you got a kid that's accepted in ESA, all the kids are accepted to it, but that doesn't mean you have to accept the monies for the ESA. Correct. You still have the choice per kid of how you want to disseminate ESA or STO. Because again, with STO and ESA, the money stays with the child. So that's a huge win.
Great, awesome. Thank you for that clarification. And then there was one question about, is there a limitation on what grades you can buy the curriculum for? And that is a no. There is no, if you have a child that is either, they're registered in the ESA program as a 5th grader, but you need them to be working on 3rd grade or 4th grade math because you're trying to undo something that somebody else did, or they were not helped appropriately in another setting, you can buy that curriculum that's for a different grade level. ESA is not checking up on your academics. Again, to reiterate, ESA checks the accountability of how the money is spent, not on the academics of what you are teaching your child, as long as you are agreeing to cover the 4 core subjects, which is the same requirement that families on the homeschool affidavit have as well. I think those are all the questions I see. If I missed anything, raise your hand and feel free to unmute yourself and chat with that, or I can unmute you, sorry, and then chat. We can chat. Otherwise, I think we got it all covered.
I do want to say, put my little plug in for micro schools. So if we have any teachers out there that have left the public school, but you still love teaching and you're not really sure what to do, a micro school might be something that is a blessing to you. It's definitely been a blessing to me and my family. You don't have to be a certified teacher. You can be a homeschool mom who can also open their own micro school. Micro schools are connected to a charter school, but you can also pay with ESA funding. You have to choose which one, of course. You can't do both. So that is also another option that if you want to explore, you can let me know, and I drop my email down there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Esly, did you see a hand raised? Maybe that's Zoom being glitchy. All right. Anyone from the panel have anything they want to add before we conclude? All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending this time on a Friday afternoon with us. We hope that you found it informative and that you were able to get some information that's helpful to your family. Again, please Esly, I think you're back with us now.
I'm back. I was muted. Sorry, I had to go mobile here. But what I wanted to say is you can use ESA and STO in the same school year, just they have to be different quarters and you cannot use them at the same time. So you can use them in the same school year, just different quarters, and you can't use them at the same time. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that clarification. That is important. I think the general takeaway from that is you can't be in two programs at once, but you can alternate into other things. And that goes for a public school and
that's correct.
Things like that. Awesome. All right.
Ava, do you want to send us off since you started?
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Am I unmuted now?
Now you are.
All right, guys. So guys, like I said, this was just incredible to kind of not be an educator, just being a mom, putting it out there that getting involved in my kids' public school education. Also though, exploring the other options given the incredible shift that public school is really in the whole process of right now. I know that we have a lot of homeschool parents who already do that, but if you are a mom like me who has a child in public education right now, and you're really looking man, what are my options? Like Beth was saying, micro school is a great choice. Private school, you can get that private school pretty much paid for if you're willing to learn how to do that. Me and Beth have been talking. We both live here in Sahuarita. We are Christian. We're Christians, and we would really love to see a Christian-based education being available for the people here in Sahuarita. So we would like to also organize some kind of meetup for you guys, especially if you are man, I really want to explore more options as far as school choice in our community. Even if you're just kind of looking to make a change, whatever it is, we want to connect with you guys here in the community. So we want to set up some kind of in-person meetup. We're talking about possibly holding something at the clubhouse, but we want to know how we can connect with you on a personal level in our community. Even if it's something what can we do to help the schools, right? I mean, we have the school board, we have the elections coming up for school board, superintendent of the state of Arizona. Okay, you have to get plugged in, and just if it's on your heart to just be man, there needs to be an alternative public school, or something needs to change in the public school system right now. I really want to encourage you guys to just get plugged in, maybe not even with the school board or whatever it is, but start by just reaching out to a parent like me or Beth, hey, I just really want to get involved, or hey, I have some questions on what's being taught currently, what are the plans, things like that. Or if you're kind of wondering hey, what are some of the candidates that I should be looking at elect for school board, for the state of Arizona superintendent. I think that one's super important as well. If you look at who is currently, what is that? The special superintendent of the state of Arizona. I don't know exactly what that one is called, but it's like the superintendent for the state of Arizona education. And so look at who is in office right now, who you could possibly vote into office. Like I said, we're like the ground troops right now, the politicians, things like that. They're the ones that I mean, we make an impact in our community, right? So connect with us. We want to do more. This is not like we're ending this Zoom, but like this is just the start. I'm telling you, you will hear me. Like you will hear me. I will be around. And I know Beth, Dennise, Jonathon, Esly, Sara, Jessica, thank you guys so much for just being part of this, and all of you guys that hopped on today. If you could just share this, we're gonna post this recording so that you can share this Zoom, tag us in it, whatever, share it on your community pages on Facebook that you guys are a part of, share it in your mom groups that you're a part of, send it to your friends, tag your friends once we post it, whatever it is. Just by spreading awareness on what's happening currently and the resources and options that you have available, it matters. Okay, it really matters. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, and keep an eye out if you're asked to sign a petition.
Decline to sign. Straight up.
Consider, please, we're suggesting that you consider leaving the option open for everybody. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.